Hi everyone, welcome back to The Learning Gardener. Today we are without our usual mic and camera setup because it has been raining pretty consistently for a number of days and it is supposed to bucket down tomorrow and the next day. So we're out here with just the GoPro in case the heavens decide to open up because we need to deal with all of this. So let me run you through what we're going to do. The first thing is we need to deal with the blackberries. As you can see, the blackberries and the asparagus are a giant mess together, and the roses that were supposed to form a nice beautiful hedge are doing all sorts of strange things and still are in desperate need of a prune, and I haven't done anything to them. I've just left them alone. But the bigger problem is that the other day I was having a look at how long these blackberry strands are, and look what I found. So this is not the only place where the blackberry is trying to root in. I only just found this one just now. There was another one over here in between the roses, and I do not want this blackberry. Oh look, there's another spot over here. I do not want this blackberry rooting in. Oh my god, this one's quite solid. Oh dear. Oh dear, because oh yeah, okay, we have to deal with this first up because I do not want blackberries everywhere. We need to get any kind of suspension for these long canes up. We need to get them off the floor before we end up with a diabolical mess. You know, in case this wasn't already a diabolical mess, she says as it begins to rain. Let me show you what else we're going to try and do in the event that the weather holds out. So down here, I might not have shown you guys this because this was kind of like a spur of the moment decision. I was going to make like a triangle shaped garden bed that comes across here, and there is like a little patio area here that was pretty level, but after we cut down the trees and that was all plonked on top there, they kind of become quite unlevel, which is why I haven't set up the garden table yet. But I was still hopeful. Whoops, we stepped on a squeaky dinosaur. Still hopeful that this was going to be a beautiful outdoor area. I was a little bit upset it was on the side that gets the most sun in winter, but I was like, whatever, let's just leave it there. And so I had planted this ornamental pear tree so that it would grow up and cast some shade over here so that when you're sitting out here it's nice and pleasant. And I have things like echinaceas and poor little hydrangeas that are desperate / it's too late to get in the ground because they're basically either dormant or dead. The same is true of these fruit trees, and these are only a couple of them, and hopefully the wind is not so bad that you guys can't hear me, otherwise I will do some voiceover later. But like, this is a cherry tree that's been abused. There are a number of other fruit trees over here that I bought in early spring, and we're now in very late autumn. And you can even see there's some little buds on this peach tree, and everything's looking rough as because it's gone dormant, and they've been sitting in pots for a full growing season because I could not decide where to put them. The beautiful red leaf maple is starting to show its autumn colors, but I kept going back and forth about where I would put it, and I think what I've decided is that I'm going to take all of this out. It's roughly the equivalent of 3x3, which is exactly the size of the shed my dad got for free. So we're going to take all of these out, and then the shed is going to get tucked in behind there. So that's the plan. We're going to take these bricks out and get some things planted, but absolutely the first step must be this blackberry. So I'm just going to go inside and check the rain radar and get everything I need ready to get this guy suspended, because rain, hail or shine, this guy's getting pinned up today. I'm nearly finished hanging up the thornless blackberry, but the roots have been diabolical, so I want to show you the one last one that I haven't pulled yet. It is in amongst this grass that I have sprayed. It's a small branch, and it has wedged itself underneath these bricks, and no matter how hard I pull, I cannot get that root to come out. So I'm going to have to move this brick and then pull it out. And some of them, like the one that was in underneath this rose, basically taken over the whole rose root area, which is just out of control. I mean, I was going to move these anyway. They've grown much bigger than I was expecting, and it's been very hard to control the weeds in this area, even with the cardboard and the thick mulch. So I am going to move them, but far out, this thing's a beast. I hope I've got enough of the roots that I don't see little blackberries popping up everywhere. And I mean, the trouble with this is that I am planning to put one of the last square beds here, and I mean, this was just we need a solution, and we need a solution right now. Supporting structure. I have been trying to work out how I'm going to do this, and as I was doing this, I was thinking maybe if I get some Rio mesh and make an arbor, that might be the way to go, because you've still got to be able to access both sides to get to the berries. Not that we've got any signs of berries, but as you can see, it's still pretty long. So I don't know how I'm gonna quite tame the beast, whether I just prune it to manage its size. So if you guys have any experience or ideas about dealing with my beautiful little thornless blackberry that has been a bit enthusiastic and hopefully hasn't penetrated the weed mat that's underneath it, let me know. But we've got to get this guy out over here and make sure we haven't missed any vines. So this has just found a very happy little home underneath this brick. Thankfully, it doesn't look like it's wandered off too far, but still, I didn't realize they rooted in so easily. I mean, you hear about them popping up little suckers everywhere, but I didn't realize that it would just, you know, root as soon as it touched the ground, which sounds bad, but that's what they've done. We're all done through here. All of the blackberry is suspended up. I'm not going to deal with the asparagus because I'm just waiting for that to die back, and then I will cut it back. I've never grown or eaten asparagus before, so this is a fun experiment. But this area is all cleared out. Underneath where I am squatting now is cardboard. Underneath the blackberry is weed mat, and as I said, I'm going to pop another garden bed just over there, and I was just going to put down some cardboard here and just mulch the area, but I'm thinking now, given how intense the roots were and how much this blackberry just wants to like be in the yard, all in the yard, everywhere in the yard, I might put weed mat underneath there just to hopefully stop any little suckers emerging, although to be honest they'll probably just keep digging and turn up somewhere else. And also, in case, you know, I miss a period and don't suspend the blackberries, I don't want them drooping down and growing into the ground again. So I don't know if this is going to be the permanent trellis system for the blackberry, but it is the today system for the blackberry, and that is a problem solved for today. And it is raining again, so we are going to get back on to all the other jobs and chuck all those blackberry roots in the bin. So you can see I've started removing a lot of the brick and paving tiles from here, but let me just show you, and we haven't had that much rain compared to what we're going to have, how squishy this ground is. So you can see it's kind of quite sandy. It's not quite clay, it's definitely sandier than clay. You couldn't roll this, well maybe you could today, but you can't roll it into like a sausage, which is the clay test. So what I'm thinking is that this hydrangea will go here, whoops, and then I might do a couple of hydrangeas along here to kind of block the horrible colour bond, but then it won't block it in winter. But I don't know if that's really a big deal. I've also got a snowball viburnum tree that needs a home, and obviously we've got the Japanese maples. So we've got these two here, and I've got to relocate this one, but I think that's probably all I'm going to get done for today because it just keeps bucketing down. And as you can hear, Birdie's getting a bit angry, so I'm going to put this back under cover because we're about to get 100 mils of rain. So I'm going to think about where I'm going to put everything, and then the kids are going to come and help me move this tomorrow because I'm babysitting them for 2 days. We might get this up, it just depends on if it rains, so we shall see. Just before we go inside, I want to show you this. We need to move these trees because when they get wet they flop right over. Hopefully that will stop when they get a little bit bigger, but they just get weighed down by the water and look terrible. We are back in the garden a week later, and also 300 mils of rain later, so I don't think we're going to get this project done, but what we are going to do is save the little echinacea that I was going to plant here. So it's a purple and an orange one, and given how soggy our soils are and are going to be for a while, this echinacea, which is in the process of going dormant, it's just stuck to roses. There's just no chance that if I bury this it'll survive, so I'm going to put it in the garden beds because at least they're better draining, and then it has a nice safe place for it to go dormant because our temperatures are dropping, but it needs somewhere where it's not going to be so soggy. And I'm probably going to take some seed from this just in case. Need a slightly bigger hole, sorry wormy. And because it's about to go dormant, I'm not going to fertilize it. I'm almost surprised the garden beds aren't soggier given the amount of rain we've had, to be totally honest. So I've popped it in just beside this stevia plant, and hopefully it'll be happy here and it can re-emerge next season, and we will maybe move it, then maybe not, because we're supposed to be going back into a La Nina, which is a wetter cycle, which is hard to imagine at this point, but I don't know how well echinaceas are going to do in the ground here. But I'm going to pop these off, and I mean they're very wet, but save the seeds if they don't go moldy. Let's go take these inside. Of course it has started raining again, and we are expecting another 300 mils this weekend, which will take us to 600 mils of rain in about 8 days, which is ludicrous. But I wanted to show you how some of the things are doing in the garden, and if we can come out here in bursts and try and get things done, because I'm going a bit stir crazy having not been in the garden for 3 weeks. So because this soil holds moisture really, really well, even when it's not raining a lot, you can see it's too much for the lavender. A lot of them are looking a little bit rough. The bunny's tails have reseeded beautifully, but I think when the weather is better, I'll be moving these lavender. Most of the ones on this side are either half dead or on their way to dead. some other things that are clearly enjoying the amount of rain, and as I said, I was a little surprised the garden beds weren't wetter, but I guess they drain really well, is these tomatoes. So I need to come in and pop some more mulch on here, but I'm really worried about my poor little garlic. I've never successfully had garlic. This is the best it's ever looked, and of course we've had 600 mils of rain, and I might add, this is after I delayed planting my garlic by weeks because we had 300 mils in one weekend. So we have had a lot of rain lately. But on the plus side, my garden beds that weren't doing so well because the garden soil is not as good, they have been doing really well. I think a lot of that is because I put a tiny little layer of homemade compost on, and I cannot believe what a difference that has made to these artichokes, because they were tiny squidgy for months and months and months. As soon as I put on a little bit of compost, boom, they're off and running. And look, they have grown so much. So they were probably like this big maybe 4 weeks ago. And the other thing that is really enjoying this weather is the beans. So they're all looking absolutely beautiful. I hate to think what my poor seedlings are looking like, because they have to be getting absolutely drowned. So let's go and have a little look. Last few tomatoes. Berry soil that needs to go on. Here they are. So the broad beans have almost outgrown this. These sweet peas look like they're going yellow. And I think a lot of the seeds have probably washed away. But we need to get in here as soon as we get a chance. Look at this nasturtium, it's taken off like a rocket. And we're finally seeing some Kennebec potatoes emerging. I really need to do something about trellising the sweet potatoes, but they're looking amazing given they were planted so late in the season. And here are these fennel that were like little babies off the side of the previous ones, and they're actually turning out really well. I was going to chuck them like a week ago because they just looked like they were going to seed, but they're looking like real proper fennels. They're just triplets. So that's exciting. I may not be thrilled with how this looks, and I may not be planning to keep the blackberries looking like this long term, but I've got to still think of an alternate solution. However, given the weather, I am so glad I prioritized last week getting these canes off the ground, because can you imagine with this amount of rain, it would have been like blackberries for everyone in the neighborhood. Would have been a bit of a disaster. But obviously it's raining now, so I'm not going to stay out here and move a whole ton of pavers, but I want to show you how squishy the ground is where we were last week. It's just a disaster zone, and I had brought up some firewood. I bring up enough for sort of like 10 days at a time, and we've been through it all because it's been raining. And because I haven't got as far as working out how I'm going to protect my wood from the weather, it's all saturated. Except for one little area, which you need to be careful when unearthing because it is full of water now. So I'm going to try and grab some wood and take it up to the deck, because then at least it can dry out up there, even if it takes a week. Thankfully we put in central air conditioning. I think we might be putting it on the dehumidifying setting later today, but let's just show you down the back. I don't know if you could see much then, but there's a little river that runs down the back. Mostly my garden is a little bit higher than 3 doors down where my best friend lives, but at her house it's like full-blown river run down the back. Something else I thought we could work on this morning are these pineapple tops. So a while ago I mentioned I wanted to make pineapple relish, but when I cut the pineapples open they were absolutely disgusting. So I just cut the tops off so that I could grow new pineapple plants for them. I do have one pineapple plant that is down the side of the house that I need to plant as well. But hopefully you can see it's a bit hard with the GoPro, that there are some little roots starting to develop. And I thought, seeing it's doing nothing but raining, rather than continually topping up the water, which I haven't done since we got home last night, I might just stick these in the ground, and the next 300 ml downpour can help these guys get rooted in. Probably should fertilize them, but I'm not going to because I don't want to take the fertilizer out in the rain. So let's get these 4 pineapple plants into a garden bed. This is one of the garden beds that we recently put together. It has a home sown echinacea in the corner, and to be honest, I've got to start thinking about what I'm going to do with all the echinacea seedlings that are in the seedling trays that I just showed you, that have been waiting to be transplanted before going dormant. But as I said, we have been stuck inside for 3 weeks, so I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Clearly I'm not going to be planting them in the garden like ground as I had planned to, because they're just going to rot, and they're just tiny little seedlings. I don't even know if these are going to stay in if we get some rain. But yeah, so maybe I'll dig these in a little deeper. Maybe I'll pull some more leaves off. I don't want to hurt the roots though. Oh, that's okay. There's more roots buried under there, so let's just pull these off. We can bury it a little deeper. So I'm going to plant these around the edges of the bed, and then I'm going to put the bigger pineapple plant in the center. Whether that happens today or not, very good question. I guess it depends how heavily it rains today and tomorrow and the next day and for the rest of this week. That's how long we've got rain forecast. Can't believe this is supposed to be El Nino and we've still got La Nina to come again. So because I planted the echinacea in the corner, which I did because they tolerate drier conditions, I'm going to just pop this one a little bit off to the side. And I've noticed that the corners of these Birdie's raised garden beds do get quite dry, even with oyas. Not that I've planted the oyas in the corner of the bed, but I have noticed that the corners are definitely the driest spot. So I'll put plants that tolerate it best, and because we'd had so much rain and my dahlias had rotted, I also planted the dahlias in the corners to minimize the chance of rotting. Okay, so they're in, and I'm going to put the main pineapple here. So maybe we'll go and get that and do that now. This doesn't say what type of pineapple it is, it just says Paradise Pine, which I think is the brand name as opposed to the plant type. But it's already given me one beautiful, beautiful pineapple. Oh, this ground is so squishy. The top layer, oh my god. But in it goes. Hello, worm. And hopefully they will be happy here. I don't know how much sun they're going to get in winter. We can always move them. We've got a ton of other things that we've got to move together very, very soon. Like as soon as the ground dries out. And I'll show you in a second what we've got to move, because I just had to deal with it a bit. These beds have all been treated with some soil acidifier, and I did also put a bag of the azalea berry mix, which is an acidic soil, on the top. So hopefully that should help these guys get going, and I'm not going to water them in. They're all in, and we'll worry about tidying them up at some later date. But you can see my little echinacea happily, well, maybe not so happily in this weather, but in a pineapple bed. So hopefully many pineapples to come. Now if I don't get snagged on the rose again, I'm going to show you the number one spot we need to move things when the soil dries out. So I still haven't weeded down here, but you'll see how flopped over these pittos get in the rain. The ones in the pots are totally fine. So these are obviously all staying, but just to show you how much they've flopped. But these ones are obstructing the pathway. So they have to move, and I have to think of something else. I'm thinking about putting like Rio mesh here and then growing something up. So the Rio mesh would add like another 60 centimeters, but I don't know if that would block our window for privacy reasons enough, which was why I desperately planted these here. But they can't stay. They cannot stay. Very beautiful and brown. I've never seen you guys before. Oh, Raffy. I cannot for the life of me find the watering jug. What am I thinking? Watering can. Words have escaped me, but we need to drain the worm farm, because you can hear how much liquid is in the bottom of that, and some of that is worm weed and some of that is straight up rain. I don't know if you can see, but we've already got one drowned worm, and I don't think I'm going to dilute this because there's tons more in there. I think as much as everything totally needs to be watered, I'm gonna just spread it around a little bit in each bed, and then I might take some out the front. While the second bucket is filling, let's have a look and check on our wormies. Poor little wormies. We need to feed them as well. What's layer 2 looking like? Oh, lots of worms and lots of worm poo. Oh god, there's still more in there. So basically a bucket and a half, which is kind of crazy, but our worms will be happier now, won't they, Raffy? Let's give the tomatoes a little bit. They're already being munched on by the parrots. And I'd still like to have more than one pineapple tomato. So enjoy. Let's give a little bit to the peas. I'm sure you all really need more liquid, but sorry, it's got to go somewhere. And wormweed is too precious to waste. There we go. Done. Look at all these tomatoes that have fallen off. We'll collect those. Some of them will be alright. Have to give them a good wash. Oh, there's a Nerf gun thing. Let's just... Ew, some squishy ones. Oh, very squishy. Good news, finally the elephant garlic has emerged, but as has happened to me every time I've grown garlic, the aphids have arrived. So hopefully my Brussels sprout trap crop seeds are creating some beautiful Brussels sprouts underneath all this netting. But this is a golden jubilee potato. Why do I always want to call tomatoes potatoes? This is a golden jubilee tomato, and they have been nothing if not prone to disease and being attacked by things. So I mean, I will deal with them, but I'm not planting them again. No way. These Romas, given they were planted so late in the season, actually are doing pretty well. And given that it's cold and we've had like no sunlight for 3 weeks, I might pluck some of these larger ones and let them ripen inside so the parrots don't get them. But look at these potatoes. These are potatoes, not these. In theory, when I laid out all these garden beds, they were all measured and set up so that they could have pretty much the same distance between them. When setting this bed up, I've had some trouble, both because my eye wants it to be in line with the blackberry bin, and my eye wants it to be in line with the other beds. However, when I set it up the same distance away from the other beds, which is 1.05 meters, this bed still looks like it needs to go back another 15 centimeters. So I just had to bite the bullet, and I've set it so it's in line with the blackberry bed, and we're going to fill it because this is a great thing to have happen when it's just about to rain again. We got a brief burst of sunlight, which is why we're out of here. So we're going to do a hugelkultur style of filling this garden bed. I'm not going to use a lot of wood because the wood has other uses. We have done this in other beds, but something we have this time that we didn't have last time is in these boxes and in these garbage bags. And that is autumn leaves from my parents' house. And we've got more of those to go, and we're gonna dump the leftover tomatoes and just chuck it all in there and let it compost